My friends, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of Diner Talks with James. I'm James, and I'm pumped to be here with you, kicking it in the diner, y'all. Gosh, I hope it's air conditioned. It's just getting sticky out here. I'm a cold weather guy because here's the thing. In the heat, you can only take off so many layers before it gets illegal. And also, my self-esteem prevents me from taking off even more layers. But in the winter, your man's looking good in layers. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's all right, y'all. I hope you're not melting wherever you are, but a lot of this country is. It's okay. Global warming's a lie. No, it's not. All right, let's jump into today's episode. I'm excited about this. This woman and I had a really cool conversation last night, and that was the first time that I met her. And I am excited for you to meet her right now. Sliding into the diner booth is today's guest, Suzannah Galland. She is a British-born empath and internationally acclaimed intuitive life advisor. She has written for high-profile magazines like HuffPo, Harper's Bazaar, Goop, Thrive Global, Medium, and a whole bunch others. Additionally, she's been featured in Forbes, Vogue, New York Magazine, USA Today, and is a co-author of Goop's The Sex Issue. Shout out to Gwyneth Paltrow. Suzannah has been featured on the Today Show, and if I haven't named a show that you've heard of yet, feel free to come out from under your rock and take a look around, because Suzannah's been some places. She's also a frequent guest on America's Next Top Model as a guidance expert and, in my opinion, a potential contestant. But I think she's an incredible human being, and I'm excited for you to meet her. Let's bring her out right now. Suzannah Galland.
Wow. That was great. And so much energy.
You know,
I feel like I got to do this to live up to it now.
I have to talk at this volume.
I love the yo. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here too. And yeah, we had a great conversation last night. And so
we're jumping in the diner. I'm so excited that you're here, my friend. You live, by your accent, I can tell that you live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You were born and raised in the UK. Whereabouts in the UK were you born?
I'm actually a Londoner. So a lot of people will say, oh, I'm from London, but it's really, they're outside London, and none of you Americans or people outside of England understand, where all the little suburbs and counties and cities are.
Yeah.
But I'm a Londoner through and through.
Through and through. You're not just making it easy for us.
No, I'm a city girl. So, city mentality.
I love it. Where in LA are you?
I'm on the east side, more Hancock Park, that area, which is old Hollywood.
Great area. Great. A lot of character over there. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I live in a building that was built by Paramount, and they used to house all the stars before the films. Mm-hmm. And like you have to, like your great grandfathers or your grandparents know all these stars. But apparently, even though they were in seclusion, they've got these fire escapes they used to run up and down and bonk each other secretly on. So, high risk as well. So it's got notorious secrets. So it's kind of like the perfect place to house yourself in Los Angeles,
That sounds awesome. That's great. I love that. So, Suzannah, this conversation, this show is called Diner Talks with James. And, as a city girl, I know that you appreciate, or at least have experienced, some good late night eats. So here's my first question. I guess I've already asked you a question, but here's my next question. What is your favorite late night guilty pleasure? If you and I were hanging out late at night and having a conversation, what would you love to get to eat?
Toast. I like flourless toast. I've got used to that. But Irish unsalted butter slapped on it, and cheese, like a good cheddar cheese, sharp. Mm-hmm. That's my secret pleasure. Really plain, and I'm ecstatic when I sit down. But I have to have 2 slices. And it's the best. It's the best. I'm like a little 8-year-old. I'm ecstatic.
Yeah.
That's what a pleasure is for, isn't it? That little intimate moment of, oh my God, this is it. I'm not ice cream person. I'm not a sugar
Mhm.
person.
Yeah. That's totally fine. You're still welcome in the diner. That's why there's so many options. I love it. A little sharp cheddar cheese. Now, is the cheese on the toast or is the cheese next to the toast?
No, it's on it.
On the
And,
toast. Okay.
and if I'm really disgusting, I'll have it. I won't put the butter on and I'll melt the cheese. Like it depends
Mm.
how far I want to go.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
really like cheese on toast.
Yeah.
It's
It's a
just
classic.
yeah, that's my heart. I mean, it's just I don't have bread a lot, so I just love it. And the other thing is I love Greek food. So pita, hummus, anything like the olives. Oh my God, any disgusting thing that your stomach's not going to love while you sleep. Oh, I love all that. So
Everything's better with feta. Come on now. Uh,
yeah,
Uh, that's awesome. This is a judgment-free zone, Suzannah. That's the beauty of the diner is we're all equals in here. So you eat your bread. We got your back.
toast.
Um, eat that toast.
No, I love it. So.
Fine. Doesn't even have to be multigrain here in the diner. You're safe.
But if you're in a New York diner, I'll have the blintzes.
Oh yeah.
Please. You can't be, every diner at 3 a.m. has got blintzes. So that's got to have that in New York. So
I love it. I love it. Now, when did you obviously you're in Los Angeles now. You're a Londoner by birth. How long were you in the UK? And tell me a little bit about who young Suzannah was. What did you think you wanted to do when you grew up when you were younger?
my passion was, because it's London and it has culture like New York. I'm not saying other states don't have culture,
Mhm.
but a lot of America, especially like Los Angeles' movies, culture for London is art, photography, theater, famous for its theater, like New York is. And so when I grew up, I wanted to direct theater. I wanted to write, direct, and produce shows for theater, which I did. But I ended up working for just to earn a living. I was working for places like MTV Europe, ABC News, CNN, NBC for satellites, like whatever. I was always in some media show, like game shows, and working with producers to develop shows for TV. And I love that, but I wanted to learn to direct. And I wanted to write and create, and that. So I pivoted, or I moved, and I worked with this very acclaimed writer, award-winning writer, Stephen Burkhoff, he's won so many awards, and I had worked with him on a show, Fetch, and he won an award for that too. And that was where I started to really work with a director so close to see how the lighting and everything was staged. And along that path, I had a younger sister, Bernice, who had a chronic terminal illness, sadly, and I learned about how to utilize my compassion and how to sense and feel from her, because people on terminal wards have a wonderful perspective, and she was helping people in hospice care in the hospital to look good for their for the families to come. So she would help do their nails and make them up, which gives such a dignity, because most people have their hair really bad. So anyway, cut a long story short, I used to sneak her out, and we would go on this like Mark Twain adventure to try and find healers. So I went through every culture you could find, every prayer, every thing I ever did. And in order to do that, I had to psych out what was the best nurse that if we got caught, I could get away with, or how do I get round each nurse? And so I started to sense, feel, and use my psyche to be able to almost read minds so I could get her out. And that's how I mean, you know, sometimes you have a gift. And the biggest breakthrough I had was when she was, it's such a sad story. But it's a true story that you never really recover from, but you find meaning from it. It's one of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in a coma, and I used a form of prayer or affirmation, and I just again psyched the moment to put a thought in or to reach her. And when she came out of a coma, she could hear, she said she heard my voice screaming her name, you know, come here. And I wasn't saying that, but that's how it, so it made me feel in the privacy and silence of my mind, my spirit, my body, I had some muscles to work with. And so I thought, you know, when she passed, I had been doing well in London, very, very well. When she passed away, I was married at the time, and we went over to America. And I was supposed to be in New York, ended up in LA. And then as we were going through a divorce, I found myself single, you know, new life. And as a hobby, I would do these kind of intuitive hits and things. And it just went all over Hollywood, all the actors, everywhere. It just was like a big bright light. And I was wondering, wait a minute, I want to do this production stuff. I want to, and I ended up pursuing that, and, you know, made a difference, or helped to make a difference, my mission, to as many people as I can. And you can't go through that kind of experience coming out shallow. Well, you can, but why? You know, and we've all been through a COVID thing. We're still in it. So, you know, I thought we're all aware we need more values and compassion. So that's how it started. So the, you know, young Suzannah wanted to be in theater production. I'm not saying, you might find me in my 80s toddling along doing some kind of stuff in the middle of Wales somewhere. But this is where I'm at, and I'm ecstatic and probably feel more essential than ever, with more meaning, especially at a time like this, to do exactly what I'm doing. So that's part of my history.
What a journey.
Yeah, but I think the entertainment, the fact that I was always in entertainment, and I was born in entertainment. Like my uncle was a well-known comedian. Again, different era for very young folk. They won't have heard of Marty Feldman. To older folk, they would. He was in like Young Frankenstein as Eagle. Oh, yeah. Did a lot. So I was very just savvy and aware of the showbiz life, if you get it.
You're around it, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely know who your uncle is.
I'm in the, you know, linked to media and entertainment is what I'm saying. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know who your uncle is. That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
Is your sister is an older sister, younger sister? Younger, okay. And if you don't mind me asking, is she still with us?
No, she passed away. And that's when I left London. And well, after I'd worked with Stephen Berkoff, then there was nowhere to go, and I didn't want to stay. And my father, who I idolized, I love my dad. He wanted me to have a life, and I'd given so much up to help him with her that it was such a freeing thing to offer me, not to take care of him, but take care of me. Mm-hmm. It was a sacrificial gift of a father to a daughter, where a lot of parents don't do that. So I was very blessed.
Yeah. What just timeline wise, what age was it when you moved to the States?
I was 20, just about coming up to 27, 28. well, 27, and then I went through. So I left London in my 20s, say, and I broke my virginity, because you're like green-eyed and a virgin. Even if I've worked with Americans, the culture here is so different. Like, for instance, in England, it's so easy to say, don't be such an idiot. But while you're, at that time I'd had a divorce, while you're dating, you say to most Americans, don't be such an idiot. They're so offended. That's like the worst thing to say. So you have to learn to speak American,
Mm-hmm.
which was backwards for me. And this is how you learn. You say to someone, well, why is someone called Jack John? I don't know. Why do you say that for that? I don't know. So you don't really learn. You just, like, people will say, hey, what's up? And in England, if you say that, people go, oh, you've got no idea. This is what's going on. So the way I got around it, I said to a couple of Americans, what do I do? It's giving me like panic attack every time they ask me that. I got to think of what's up with me? How am I? And they go, no, just mirror it back. So you just go, hey, what's up? What's up? And it makes sense to them. So, yeah, so that's how I work my way through.
Yeah. The cultural differences are fascinating. And it obviously speaks to the beauty of, I love the dry wit of a British comedy. And
There's nothing like it. Yeah.
There is truly nothing like it. It is very special. And I can totally see the transition, right? In the US, if you ask somebody how you're doing, I believe we're legally we're legally held to four responses as Americans, which are good, fine, tired, and busy. But if you ask how are you doing in any other culture, buckle up and grab a latte, because you're going to talk.
The Yorkers will just hang up on you when they finish. They don't even say goodbye. So a lot of the time, you just got to understand it's not personal, it's culture.
Yes. Yeah, no, 100%. So in general, are there things that, Americans are more sensitive is what I hear you saying. And would you say they're more sensitive or more?
I think they're more self-absorbed.
More self-absorbed. Okay.
More, the first place they go is, if they're offended, it's about how they feel about them. And because it's very transactional here, so it's always about you. You're kind of conditioned that way here.
Yeah.
Where in England, we're more polite. We have more awareness of how, to some degree, how our relationship can affect someone else in dire situations. Or we'll think about something before we attack someone, like, did they mean that or that? Whereas there's a lack of thought. It's just pure reaction here.
Yeah. Is that something that I want to ask this question in both directions? What's something that you think the Americans can learn from the Brits?
Okay, number one, this is so important.
And don't tell me to put U's in some of my words. I'm not putting any more letters in my words.
I say that to someone. Huge. And no one laughs, but I do. I still think it's such a fun thing to play with, that word. I think one of the most respectful things you can do for yourself, and I think a lot of Brits have that down to pat, is that, let's say you're in a meeting or you meet someone like you and I in a diner, or you're on a date, or you've just met someone, or you're getting to know them. Keep your mystery. Don't tell them all about yourself. Here, I've sat with people that don't breathe, like for literally 20 minutes, and rant. And you hear about everything, right down to if they had herpes, and then this person abused me, and it just goes on and on. And everything about their drama. And there's what's there to get to know? I mean, it's just one dire competition of who's had worse shit than someone else. And in England, we keep ourselves very private. but probably from centuries of stiff upper lip, don't
Sure.
show
Yep.
your emotions, that kind of don't air them.
Keep calm, carry on.
Yeah, but that's ingrained.
Yeah.
Unless you're pissed off, and then you'll see everybody scream at someone else.
Yeah.
But you don't normally find out about someone in the first few hours the way you would a lot of Americans here. And I think you should keep some of your story as a mystery because it might sound emotionally charging to you. It's huge drama. It actually makes you vulnerable. You don't know what else you're saying. And you're giving it all up before you've even, you haven't even started to play the game kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that, number one. And I do like the Brits. I'm not saying Brits don't ghost and bench girls or partners or whatever, but they don't rain check as much as here. They don't do that. There's just this, it's okay to ignore someone. It's not okay in England. You get your ass whooped. It's really, I know New York girls are the same. They don't like that so much. So I think it's just city mentality. We don't have time, and it really offends us, So I think how you communicate is different. I think that take a beat and think before you do something where you're entitled. And not everything is about a win or a transaction. It can also just be a reality of meeting someone you're having a good time with. Yeah. So those are the things I think a lot of Americans can learn from.
I love that. Well, we're going to come back in a little bit to the vulnerability conversation because I think you and I can, I think we think differently about it, and I'm excited to come back to it in a minute. But I want to ask one question in between there, and that is, what is something that you think the Brits can learn from Americans?
Well, they can be more vocal. They're very good, Americans, telling you what they think, right in your face. And whether someone has trained them how to communicate their boundaries, their issues, and their points, it's something that Americans will voice clearly to someone else. They don't like it when it's done to them, but they're very good at giving it to someone else when it concerns them. England, we're a little bit quiet. We take a breath before we, go crazy. We're not good at grabbing someone by the what's-its and go and running with it. We're not good at that. That's something I had to learn a little more of here. And I'm not always comfortable, but I do it. And women, I think, as you age, because I'm older, when you become more direct, it's very unattractive on women. We're perceived in the media as like bitter or like we're bitches. And it's really not true. It's just we're direct. So a couple of things I'd like to shift here a bit. But I think in England, it would be good for us to have more boundaries and stand up for ourselves more.
Yeah. Fascinating. I love, I appreciate, I think it's always fascinating to compare cultures. And, in the United States, we frequently get caught up in the I and we forget about the we. And that hurts us as a civilization sometimes here. But at the same time, in pursuing the I, then entrepreneurship is bigger. And there's some other cool features that happen.
Well, yeah, and you run with it. Like you tend to throw out. I mean, you can see that in the media. They throw out words, they throw out slogans, they throw out courses, and everybody runs with it because now it's a technological world. And in England, I think you have to add a teeny bit more credibility before everybody dives in. Here, you can give the illusion of credibility. And it's a bigger mess, but it's a bigger country. it means.
Bigger country, bigger mess. Yeah.
It is.
Sure. Yeah.
After COVID, a lot of people are lone rangers. They're online all the time. Their meetings are online. They're 1 minute we're out, 1 minute we're not. Even reputable institutions like banking, their staff can work remotely at home and come into the office when needed. So life has changed in that sense.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. You started to allude to, you started talking about ghosting and whatnot. You do a lot of really cool work as a life advisor. You talk a lot about love. Obviously, you've been an incredible resource to many different publications and whatnot. You're the co-authored Goop's sex issue. And so human connection is something that you are passionate about. I can hear that in the way that you talk. And I'm wondering, where did your passion, desire come from to work and help individuals with their relationship lives, with their sex lives and stuff like that? Where did that stem from?
I think it started to stem from recognizing grief, because I had been in grief, losing my sister. But I also had been in love different times, and it's fantastic when you're in love. Oh my God, it's amazing. And I mean, you're married. Like, if we could just keep those little moments, those nuggets we get right at the beginning, all the way through, we'd be elated. But love grows. That's the difference. It's love. But I noticed that the pain and hurt of love, being in love without pain, was a rarity, a priceless gem, like discovering something hidden. And I'm so curious anyway. I'm curious on everything. And I think that made me look at, well, if so many women, I mean, because it's women I notice more, women are in such pain, we can't all be mad. Like, what's going on here? And how come we're falling for the same shtick? It's like we wouldn't do it in business, a lot of us. And when you see the old comedians come on, and we all love them, and they're in their 80s and they still got the same shtick going. We have a little compassion because it's there, but it's like been done. We know the joke, we know the punchline. It surprises me how the same thing, people fall for the same thing again and again and again. And it made me think about, for our education, no one teaches us about life skills. Like, especially, I mean, no one even knew about podcasts until, they might now in broadcast, but they didn't as part of an education thing. So no one taught women life skills. So that was something I wanted to explore. And the other thing I noticed, that when women are in their element, they have light in their eyes. They're so they're magnanimous, they're magnetic. They're just oozing with pheromones. And they're not, it doesn't matter whether they're looking for love or not. It's that light that men, women, we, they, I want to honor, but it's that light that's like a moth to light. It's the most powerful nectar. And then when they're in relationships, everything changes. They lose sight. They have no idea how to play it. So it's $1 billion industry. How to do this, how to do that. It's still not working. Come on.
Right.
So I'm usually around for someone who has no idea who they're dating, because I use the same method in hospitals as I do looking at, they'll show me a picture and I can read remotely the person. The same way I would read all the nurses and know when to go in, when not. I mean, she was in hospital 10 months at a time. So I had such good training. I just exercised a muscle in a specific way. and an empath because I feel. I'm a sensory person. So I'm good for decision and very good at helping people leave or pull out of pain, because it's people stay in relationships too long and it's getting so bad. I mean, you have friends, sure, you must have friends you've seen stay in and you go, what are they staying in for? And guys, they get jerked around easily too.
Sure.
And you wonder, what are you staying in for? They won't leave. So it's the same thing either way. It's just men are less confident phoning me because it's a shame game. They keep quiet. They don't talk about it a lot, you know?
Sure, yeah.
Where women will either get their men on the phone or it takes a friend to do it. So that's kind of where I'm at, or I give guidance and especially support. I don't want people to ever stop wanting to fall in love, believing they can find the right mate. That's a passion of mine and a mission. So I believe, I'm so determined to get that rolling, as equally as I'm aware of the playing field and what's out there.
Yeah, first off, thank you for telling me about that, and I appreciate you opening up. Obviously about your sister earlier, telling us about how you've loved and that you've been in love before, and the ebb and flow that being in love is.
Well, no, I've been in love a few times. I've been very lucky, and I thought, listen, breakups are breakups, but being in love, even if it was painful. When I think of the memories of the early days, it was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Those magical moments in the beginning of discovery and of learning and of curiosity and of lust and all those kinds of things, for sure. It's such a magical time. In the work that you do now, being an advisor to many, and being a thought leader in the space, as far as thinking about where people are getting hung up. We write so many stories when we're trying to figure out where we fit in a relationship or in a potential relationship. So let's start on the dating side first, and then we can go into the relationship later. But on the dating side, what are a lot of stories that you hear people writing nowadays that maybe take themselves out of the game before they even play it?
Well, I think it's a great way of introducing that question. Thank you. But I don't think anybody knows what the game is, because there's already a game and a game and a game. I mean, that's one thing I want to talk about. The other thing is you can work on intentions, which you need to do for dating. But if you don't have the right tools and awareness, you're not preparing yourself, your GPS, for some of the scrupulous players out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not in 1940 where your cousin introduced you to someone, or 1960 where we all were high in an ashram, and go on and on and on. And in the 80s where everyone was whatever, having the time of their life. And, you get drunk, you have the best sex, and then you feel like crap the next day. And nobody had an issue around cheap. It was just, you felt it, but it was a different era. Same pain, but just freedom, 90s. And now we're in this era, which is pure technical. I'm not saying someone recommend you, but it's highly unlikely. People are more self-absorbed. They don't care. They don't really go out their way to help someone because they don't want to be blamed or have the ramifications if things go wrong. They don't want any responsibility. So you're left alone out there. You go online, and there are 50,000 people that would tell you how to look, what to say, how to be, and you feel stupid. And then you think, okay, you connect. So you play the kind of fun sexual thing, and it's okay if guys send you dick pics. You know, you kind of make it work because you really like the guy, and it goes on and on and on. And, you know, the same people you can have a serious conversation with would say, no, I would never allow that. But it depends on the person and how they've seduced them as to what they'll put up with. So there seems to be less intention towards connection and respect and sharing and values. That seems to be boring to a lot of people, and more fun, flirting, and being sexy, which is really important, but not on its own. It's shallow on its own. And it's not women's fault or men. It's 20 ways to get a woman in bed in 5 minutes. Guys love that, even if they don't necessarily do well at that game. They love it. Women, how to get a guy to date, how to get a ring on it. You know, all these things. I mean, it's a mess because there's so much information that none of it's going to work unless you work on you first. And I come from that place. I'm a great pre-step to get people out there with a little more, few rules that are aligned with them. It's if they want to follow it. And a great pre-step to work on your intentions and and that works with career or life too. So, and I can talk more about what women are up to. It's up to you where you want to take me right now.
Sure. Well, thank you for the option. For sure. I'm curious. I am curious what women are up to. I also at first would love to hear your thoughts on hookup culture. Right, like we have this, like the hookup culture is very prominent, and people are obviously statistically getting married much later. But yeah, I'm just curious, you know, the effects of things like porn and, you know, and things like that on all these conversations. Are they hooked up? Are they linked together?
It's a mess because on the one hand, it's we the people now. The people are shifting and changing, and different generations are coming in, and they don't like the old norms, and they don't like what they see. And, you know, a lot of marriages stayed together, and they weren't very happy people. And then people had so many divorces. It depends how you've been raised. And each generation gives you something, you know. But right now, the hookups give you absolutely no security, none, for sexual corruption. And we've seen that with the Tinder swindler, you know, that Netflix show on how an Israeli guy would extort money, seduce women and extort money by posing as a big playboy. And they're really clever now. You can set up, because we're online and we're in a technical world, and there's no speed dating anymore. And because of COVID, there's no dinners. And with hookups, it's easier. I mean, just hook up. Think about it. That's why it's called that. But you're not taking into account and working on yourself with your intention and who you are and what you're aligned with. Because if you're just living your life to think, oh, don't worry, I can handle those swindlers, I'll know. You won't. You'll have a glass of wine. Or if you think your rule book is make sure money's off the table when you date, so there's no issue right off the bat. Good idea, maybe, but you may not realize how much you tell someone. So this is what I'm saying. It's a mess right now. And sexual corruption there was one client I was telling you about she's a European. She's not in America. She went back home, but she dated in America. She'd been living here, and through COVID, you know, like just after and pre that and navigating through, she met this guy, and they spent a lot of time getting to know each other. And he was very distant, but would keep coming back. And he would take her out. Beautiful dinners, the most romantic and so polite. And she would phone me and say, well, he hasn't even wanted to sleep with me. That's amazing, isn't it? And I'd say, yeah, but there's a point where, let's see what happens. Let's give it a deadline because you don't want a friend. And it carried on like that. And I had said, you can have a very discreet, polite conversation. But if you want to be intimate, you need to talk about it. And I gave you some ideas on, you have to be very graceful and careful how you bring those things up. And when they did get together and sleep together, he ignored her. He completely just disappeared. And she was like so fraught. And when they did get together again, he contacted her because she had contacted him, which I said, either leave and just run for your life, or find a way of being very polite where you can get a conversation.
Yeah.
And she was already obsessed. And he said, you were the worst sex I ever had.
Oh.
And that just destroyed her.
Yep.
And then let her know, look, you're not going to be into what I am. He's into S&M and he's into all these different kind of fetishes. And I don't quite know what the result is, because once you go down that rabbit hole, it's what I said, if you've been so conditioned now to think you're lousy in bed, that if you'll do anything to please this guy, he is so messed with you.
Yeah.
You're the perfect person to be the M.
Yep.
Yeah, with the
Yep.
S&M. And so I don't know if she went back to Europe or not. She said that to me, but I said, if you go down that rabbit hole, I can't pull you out of it. It's impossible. It's a cult, kind of cultish mentality. So that's what's going on. What I meant by sexual corruption, where you can be dating someone and suddenly they'll hurl abuse at you or beat you a bit. And you think, oh, well, I'll hang in. Sexual corruption to me. And you need to work on your intentions. You need to be so clear what you're dealing with. I mean, if you want to, you've been dating with someone and they, act out really abusively. If you want to have a conversation, if you really feel there's a reason, meaning they're losing their home, their parents, whatever, terminal, and a million other reasons, or they're either alcoholics and it's not going to change, Yep. It's the leaving. You keep thinking, I can cope with this. I can handle this. It's okay. He loves me. I know, because I felt it. Yeah. He told me, or she, whatever went on. And there's that part of it that's dark, and that's going on right now. So I like to work more on light and bring in, what are your intentions? Because if you want marriage, even though that isn't sexy and a hookup, you can't be that dumb. You're going to pretty well know, in a couple of questions, how someone reacts, right?
Sure.
And you can check someone out. You can check them out. Come on. I mean, there are ways of doing it. There are also websites that have they'll tell you who the scammers are and the liars are. I mean, there's enough out there if you want to look. A lot of people don't. They want to keep the person. They want to make it work. They're lonely. They're lonely. So, that's what's going on right now.
Yeah. Where does that leave women, in your opinion, in this particular era of dating and trying to find a potential match? And because there's, on one side, it's a really liberating time for women. Women are allowed to be more free. They're allowed, the sexual revolution, and there's a lot of empowerment in that. And so for some women, For others, that's not where they feel their empowerment. But but at the same time, safety matters, and there are a lot of people out there that aren't in it for the right reasons and don't care about protecting your heart or your body.
There's the physical safety, because there's been a rape, date rape, murders.
Exactly. Yeah. So
let's
talk a little bit. Go ahead.
Let's
Talk about it.
ways with women when you're in your 20s or teens, or you're in your 20s. You have infinity. You don't even know at 22 what it would be like at 25. You don't know at 25 what it would be like at 32. And it's supposed to be like that. It's infinity. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to have that. You're supposed to be precocious and obnoxious and know everything. It's kind of cute and annoying, but it's also part of that discovery.
Sure.
It's the women at about 36, 35 to 37 that there's that hits them with the clicking, the clock that says, when am I going to have a baby? When am I going to have a baby? When am I going to have a baby? And then when they get past, say, 40 to 45, they're in burnout, they're subservient, or they just give up. Mm-hmm. There's that going on. And then there's others, that young folk that just go into abstinence, enjoying religious movements, and become celibate, mm-hmm. right? So sure. I would think of dating right now and our societies as cities. So instead of it being one big whole, think of if you're creating a city and an ideal life. If you just think about, what is your ideal life? What is it that you want? And you just look at what you really want, how your ideal life would really be. And you spend 5 minutes and you write out, whether you're describing this wonderful house, and say if you're having a relationship or partnership problem, mm-hmm. For people who are with someone, seeing such happiness, looking at, and for singles, are you with someone, imagining what your life would be. What is it? How do you want to earn? Where do you want to live? How would your life be? That's how you're designing your city. Mm-hmm. And then look at where you are now. You'll see you're in a box. You're in like a prison of some kind, where if you say to yourself, well, as long as I do my meditations, I'm going to be fine. Yeah, but you're still going to be in that little box. So I recommend get that picture of yourself really strong, because that also helps with career. Like, everybody wants to train you to be a coach now. Spend anything from 2 to 15K with me, mm-hmm. whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And it might not be right for you. It might not be the place and that's how you manifest, when it's authentic, when it's your voice, not someone else making you feel, I can get you as big as me. No, that's not true. They're unique. Mm-hmm. They're unique. So I think, see yourself as a part of a city, and that's what you want, and invite people that have similar values to that city. Otherwise, you're opting to go into someone else's city, and you're not going to change them. Mm-hmm. It's like imagining LA changing the New Yorkers. What are the New Yorkers going to say? Hello? Or the Alabama folks saying, well, we're going to change New Yorkers. No, they wouldn't dare. Mm-hmm. It's as serious as that. Find your own city and start to look at the people in your city. And think about, like, if what you want is a beautiful relationship and a really more of a prosperous job, say, or a job that you love. Mm-hmm. And right now you're just skimming it and you're making it through, but you're not passionate. You haven't got that. You're not energized. Then, you're not authentic. Then to some degree, you may want to look at who are you talking to in the day. For instance, if you're worried about poverty, don't go on a webinar that talks about poverty for 50 minutes before it gives you how to make money.
Yeah.
It just cancels out everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend let the celibate people be in their little city. Let somebody who wants sexual corruption and deviant in their city, but find your city. Use your GPS in a new normal is my recommendation. Hook up or not, you're still a unique soul with an ideal reality of consciousness, and it's up to you. Seriously up to you. So that's a mission, or another mission of mine.
Uh-huh. That's incredible.
Or if you're not interested in that, I recommend just send everyone a bottle of vodka and wish them luck.
There you go. See what happens.
See, don't get involved. Just enjoy it. There's some really good vodka.
It's some good vodka. Get after it. Get a safe word. It's such a fascinating time right now, and it's tough when you want to be free and be liberated and be out there, while at the same time there are people who are making you question your safety. It's a really tough place to be.
That's why I'm saying you've got friends, you've got values. Don't, if you're going to meet someone, take your time. I don't care about hookups. Bring someone with you. Do not go out there. And also check out, like if there's someone who, there's a they, a we. There are people who want to change they're going through their transgender. Make sure that if you're younger folk, especially, that you're clearer about who you're dealing with, because it can be very painful if you hook up and, halfway through they say, I love you, but I didn't tell anyone, but I want to be fully, a man wants to be fully female, or a female wants to explore fully male. I mean, it's great. That's why I'm saying, bring somebody with you. Do not go out on your own, and think about designing your own city. Like if you had your perfect holiday and you took the perfect friends with you. You asked me, what's my perfect, like toast and loads of olive oil and hummus and pita and olives. I'm in my element. So I want people that want that kind of shit too. And if they don't, they got their own thing. But we're not offending each other. Like find people that align with you, your bigger picture reality too. No, not in detail, but have that want more, where you're not necessarily deceived. And we're in a new normal. A new normal, I know everybody talks about, good old United States as a whole. We're not. We're in a new normal. We have our own hubs. And that's why I'm saying, create your city, link with people that are in the same mindset. See it like that. And you would agree on a perfect holiday if I asked you, who do you want to hang out with, if you brought a couple of your friends to fit in with you, your family, or wherever you want to be. You would really have to think about it, wouldn't you?
Sure, yeah.
Same thing with dating. Just because someone finds you funny and thinks you're beautiful, don't dive into that. That is that clear? Have I answered enough, or is there more?
I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for the time that you gave that, because it's important. It's important for sure. Yeah, Suzannah, you have this expertise. I'm wondering, as we kind of wrap up the episode, how could people get in touch with you if they're interested in more of you? And I know you've written for a bunch of different publications, so your name is obviously out in the world.
So I have a passion. I was going to say I have a dream that I put into reality, but then I thought Sarah Silverman, who does a very funny sketch on I have a dream, referring to Martin Luther King, and she goes into her own, if people like comedy. It's very funny. I want to create more books, more audiobooks, so I will be bringing those out. I want to do more webinars so people meet or connections. You know, I'm working on that with finding the right digital, and that is like gold when you find the right digital help. And you can find me at my website at SuzannahGalland.com, which is SuzannahGalland.com. You can find me on Suzannah Galland, you know, at on Instagram and Facebook under my name. And please come along, and if you want to call me, you may have some things to work through for your introducing a new career, or doing something, or finding that passion, or wanting to know who you're dating, or how to make it last. I'm a great person to call while you're on that journey, you know?
Yeah. It's very evident. Suzannah, I'm so grateful for you for coming through and spending time in the diner with me.
I had a great time.
I appreciate you, and thanks for sharing your wisdom and your perspective. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. You're the best. Thank you.
Y'all, that was my time with Suzannah Galland. What a fun experience hearing her perspectives on the dating world right now, and the role that trauma sometimes plays in our development, and the way that we sometimes overlook what we deserve because we've been hurt, or sometimes we think we want one thing, but we actually want another thing. And I love what she talked about, where it's like you gotta think about who would be, before you go out there, think about who do you want to be associated with? Who do you want to be around? Who would you want to live in your city if you got to pick the population of that city? I think that's a really interesting way to think about it, right? We know that the cliche phrase of your network is your net worth. But when it comes to your love's net worth, what pool are you pulling from? Really appreciate my time with Suzannah. And my friends, until next time, do me a favor, keep punching small talk in the face by asking better questions. You all take care.